Now, today, the Productivity Commission has released its draft report into workplace relations. It's made several suggestions about what it describes as improving the system, improving some of the weaknesses it says it's found in the system. And among some of the changes include making Sunday penalty rates, reducing those to the amount of what people receive on Saturdays, and also considering a new model for small business to look at enterprise agreements. One of the findings was that many small businesses look at those models for larger business and are just intimidated by some of those. So perhaps a smaller model to encourage that would be preferable. Taking a look at some of these findings, these suggestions, and what the response has been, we thought we'd speak with Peter Malinauskas, Secretary of the Shop Workers Association, or the SDA. Peter, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sonia. Good afternoon to your listeners.
There are many different recommendations within this, but I guess a couple that affect your members particularly. What do you think about this idea on penalty rates on Sundays?
Well, look, we're really disappointed, Sonia, because what the Productivity Commission has done has deliberately singled out retail and hospitality workers as being up for the chop on Sunday penalty rates. In the Commission's own report, they acknowledge that Sunday penalty rates are entirely appropriate in their current format for industries like the health industry, for nurses and doctors. They think it's appropriate for firefighters and ambulance officers, for police officers. But what they also acknowledge that it's appropriate for manufacturing. But what they say in respect to retail and hospitality is that Sunday penalty rates are wrong. And we're really disappointed because what that in itself is saying is that time off with family and friends on Sundays for checkout operators is worth a lot less than what it is for nurses or doctors. And we think that's an appalling proposition. The truth is that if you're a mother who is a checkout operator, your capacity or your desire to be with your children on Sundays is just as great as it would be if you're a nurse. So we're really disappointed by some of the recommendations that they've made.
Would you rather see the same ruling across the board to reduce penalty rates in all industries? Or
No, not at all. We think that the penalty rate regime that is currently in place for all workers through the award system is entirely appropriate. Penalty rates are there to acknowledge that if you're giving up precious family time, whether it be on a Sunday or a Saturday or on a public holiday, you should be getting compensated accordingly for that. And we don't think that we should be distinguishing between checkout operators or doctors and nurses. We think that the principle remains the same, that you're giving up family time and therefore you should be compensated accordingly.
Were there reasons given for distinguishing between industries?
Not very good reasons. I think the reasons were entirely spurious. I think one of the reasons why the Productivity Commission thinks they can get away with this is because of the perceptions around the type of people that work within those respective industries. I think there is a perception that in the retail industry it's full of young uni students who all want to work on Sundays, as distinct from mums and dads who are at home, and the mums and dads that work in retail all work Monday to Friday. The problem with that proposition, of course, is that it simply isn't how it plays out in reality. The truth is that Sundays is now the second busiest day of the week in the retail industry throughout Australia, the second busiest day of the week. And what employers do during busy times, and this is in many ways entirely understandable, is they want their best staff working at their busiest times. And their best staff are their permanent staff. And their permanent staff also happen to be those people who are in the industry as a career, and that includes mums and dads. So we've got plenty of mums and dads who are now being forced to work on Sundays in the retail industry against their will, and that's why we think they should get penalty rates for it.
Peter, do you think there's any consideration from the Productivity Commission that many of the businesses perhaps that fall within the hospitality and retail areas are perhaps small businesses who also have demands? They can't absorb perhaps those higher costs like, say, the publicly employed workers like nurses, etc., can?
Yeah, look, there are a very large number of small businesses who do operate in the retail and hospitality sectors. There's no disputing that. but we don't think we should be distinguishing between big businesses and small businesses when it comes to workers' basic entitlements.
But many small businesses do say that wage rates, particularly on weekends, are not conducive to them opening, don't they?
Well, they do say that, but let's look at what happens in practice. If you work down Rundle Mall this weekend, if you go into Westfield Marion or Westlakes, if you go to T2 Plaza Shopping Centre, if you go to the Elizabeth Shopping Centre, it doesn't matter which shopping centre or strip mall you pick in Adelaide this weekend, I can tell you that every single store is open on Sundays. And the reason why they're open is because they do a very good trade, and that the size of that trade allows them to pay the appropriate wage levels. Now, of course, there are many small businesses who would like to be able to reduce their wages cost. That's a legitimate thing for what a small business would like to be able to do. But that won't necessarily grow jobs or open new stores, because the truth is the overwhelming majority of stores are already open. We should also contemplate the adverse economic effect it would have if we reduce workers' entitlements on Sundays. The truth about retail workers is that they spend almost every cent that they earn, and the retail industry is the largest employing industry in our state. So if overnight we reduce the wages of tens of thousands of shop assistants, you also reduce their spending power and their capacity to put money straight back into the economy. So this isn't, in our view, just a question about basic fairness. It's also a question about what is the economically right thing to do.
My guest is Peter Malinauskas, Secretary of the Shop Distributive and Allied Employees Association. No, you're called the Shop Workers Association these days, aren't you?
Which one? Well, we got a long name, so whatever suits.
All right. Now, also your response to the idea of these enterprise contracts, a new model for small business, would that work?
Well, I'm struggling to understand exactly what the proposition is with the enterprise contracts. We think that the current system accommodates small businesses if they want. I mean, at the moment, we've got an award system which applies throughout the country. It's a new, simpler award system that was put into place over a substantial award modernisation process. If employers would prefer not to be on the retail award because particular conditions or arrangements don't suit them, they've got the option of engaging in an enterprise agreement with their employees. And there is something that I've been sympathetic to for small business, and that is their ability to be able to have enterprise agreements, which is why, Sonia, the SDA sat down with Business SA a number of months ago and negotiated a template agreement that was designed for small businesses that they could pick up and run with and take to their employees and get approved very quickly if they didn't like the existing award. And in that template agreement, there were adjustments to the penalty rate structure, but that was only achieved because workers were getting something else in return for it. My concern with the Productivity Commission's recommendations is that it doesn't allow for things to be given to workers in return. It's simply about a set of propositions that will leave employers better off, but not compensate workers anything in return for it. And that's a sort of a model that we don't support. We like the idea of genuine negotiations which result in outcomes that leave both employers and employees better off, not just one group.
A couple of people wanting to ask questions in relation to this, Peter. One says, aren't small businesses in strip malls only open because of lease arrangements with those malls?
Look, in some cases, there are lease arrangements that operate in retail that do have punitive restrictions put on them by landlords. We think that that's not necessarily a good approach, but that, of course, is up to those businesses to negotiate with landlords. It's got nothing to do with the industrial relations system.
And Dee says, I think you made the comment that those working on Sunday are considered less than those working in hospitality and retail are considered less than others working in other industries. Dee wants to know about the young students and how they get paid in hospitality and retail, because it's not just mums and dads. It's lots of young people working on weekends. Yep,
it's both. And the retail award or, union negotiated enterprise agreements in the retail industry accommodate for both young workers and older workers. In fact, we're of the view that younger workers should, if once they become an adult, they should be getting paid as an adult. So, but we think the existing award system provides decent penny rates, whether you're a young worker or an older worker, and we think that's entirely appropriate.
Peter, look, thank you very much for joining us on the program today. Appreciate your time.
Thanks for your interest, Sonia. Appreciate it.
Peter Malinauskas from the Shop Workers Association, his response to some of the findings and the recommendations in the Productivity Commission report released today into workplace relations. That is a draft report, and I'm sure there'll be continued discussion on that.